You are now listening to Can't Feel the Heat, the unofficial podcast about the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. Our mission is to explore the complexities of Coachella, covering the news, music, artists, technology, and business of the festival. Please rate us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on all of your favorite platforms. Follow us on Instagram at Can't Feel the Heat and check out our website at www.can'tfeeltheheat.com. Can't Feel the Heat is hosted by Tom Nash and Vanessa Franko.
Welcome back to Can't Feel the Heat. I'm Tom Nash.
I'm Vanessa Franko.
And our guest today is Justin Cohen, host of the podcast Top Fives and Deep Dives. Justin, can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? So Top Fives and Deep Dives, it's me and one of my best friends, Mike Fiella, and we're both big fans just across the board, movies, TV, music. So every week we create a top 5 list based around a topic. For instance, our most recent episode, top 5 TV cliffhangers. So we just sort of shoot the shit and make these top 5 lists. It's a lot of fun, and we always review something current that's just come out each week.
Well, welcome to the podcast. I really enjoyed listening to you talk about your favorite Coachella sets of all time and your favorite Coachella lineups of all time. That's how we came to know each other, is through you making those podcasts. So welcome. Next up, we will have Vanessa giving us our news update. Vanessa, what's the latest Coachella-related news?
Oh boy, do we ever have news. Guess what? So as we predicted, we were the first ones to predict this, Tom. Remember, we told everyone when Coachella 2022 was going to be. And guess what? It happened. In fact, the pre-sale's already come and gone. If you didn't get tickets at the pre-sale, yeah, you're going to have to wait until January. And who knows how many they have, because, it sounds like a lot of people held on to them from 2020. So that pre-sale happened. Tickets sold out within hours. But again, you can get another chance. There's usually a release of the rest of the tickets in January after the lineup comes up. But yep, the dates we predicted were right. April 15th to 17th and 22nd to 24th. That's when we'll all be back in Indio again. And in California, large-scale events are coming back in a big way. This is very exciting. As of June 15th, we kind of say goodbye to coronavirus and go back to our pre-pandemic world. The first big festival we have coming up is Day Trip in San Pedro. And you're going to that one, Tom, right?
Yeah, San Pedro. We're doing it. Can't wait. Going day one. So excited to see Chromeo, Diplo, and Nora and Pure. It's going to be so much fun. All
Coachella alums right there. In fact, Day Trip was so popular that when Insomniac dropped the lineup a couple weeks ago, they added a second day that sold out within an hour. The lineup is slightly different each day, though. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's going to be really good. Another thing for people who love Coachella, Goldenvoice has announced another festival, Cruel World. You might have remembered that. They were supposed to have that last year, 2020, in Carson. It was kind of like all these old new wave bands that played, a lot of them played Coachella actually. And they are now bringing that back in May 2022 at the Rose Bowl at Brookside, where they've done Arroyo Seco, or they've done Pasadena Daydream. And again, we're seeing a lot of old Coachella acts. Devo's on the bill, Morrissey's on the bill, Bauhaus is on the bill. So if you like that old school indie rock, new wave vibe of the early Coachellas, that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, it sounds like a good time.
I'm pretty sure the entire lineup for Cruel World is the same, just maybe one or two artists dropped out. But I'm pretty sure it's the same as the one that they dropped in 2020.
Yeah, it's pretty close. There are a couple, you're right, there are a couple that have changed. But I'm also still, I don't know, maybe I've been burned too much, but I'm this is what everybody's saying now. Who knows what reality will be when 2022 actually gets here.
So true. But let's pray, because we need our festivals back.
We need so many festivals. And there's so many. And by the way, if you want to know more about festivals, you can go to pe.com and sign up for the Festival Pass newsletter. We are seriously writing about all kinds of new festivals every week. So if you sign up for it, I show up in your inbox and I tell you about the festivals. So that's something that you can get even when we don't have a podcast this week.
Absolutely, yes. All of our listeners should sign up for Festival Pass. It's all the best information every week delivered right to your inbox. So Vanessa, you do a great job with that. I really enjoy getting that every week.
Wait, thank you. And you know what I talk about most is Coachella. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Well, welcome, Justin. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We're really excited to hear some of your favorite Coachella memories. Walk us down memory lane and tell us a little bit about your experiences going to Coachella.
Wow. So, yeah, for me, I moved out to Los Angeles in 2012. So my first Coachella was 2013. And I've gone every year since. Definitely my favorite weekend of the year, as I'm sure probably pretty similar with you too. But yeah, there's been so many memories. I'd say one of my all times would have to be Hans Zimmer's set in 2017. Just that was one of those sets where my entire crew of like 15 friends or so all made their way over there, and it was just so different for a Coachella set. And just hearing some of these songs come to life, like the song from Gladiator, the songs from Inception and The Dark Knight, and then of course the Lion King songs, which I'm a big Lion King fan. So one of my favorite moments is when just everyone I was with all made a circle, holding hands during Circle of Life, and it was just one of those special moments on the fields.
It's such a beautiful song. I absolutely love that song. And it's really deep and meaningful too, I think. It's not just like some stupid Disney song, but it's like about rebirth and, the sun rising. And I'm so happy to hear that you had that amazing experience for Circle of Life with Hans Zimmer.
And then, of course, them ending with Time from Inception, which I know we both love. I think his guitar work on that song.
It's a badass song.
It is.
It's got Johnny Marr from... it's the Smiths, right, Vanessa?
Yes. Johnny Marr of the Smiths. And oftentimes, like, he's also played at Coachella, like, as a solo artist, because the Smiths still haven't gotten back together, and they never will.
So Morrissey, who's headlining Cruel World, of course, also is from the Smiths. So far, we're a very Smith-centric podcast, I guess.
I feel like we're too happy to be a Smith-centric podcast. But... you bring up like the Hans Zimmer. So here's like my favorite memory about Hans Zimmer. So we were actually just talking about this because a coworker who used to go to Coachella with us recently left, and she was talking about that year. She and the reporter, they were in the press tent, and the press tent was right behind the outdoor theater stage. And so he, like, the reporter, Richard Guzman, who goes with us every year, he's amazing. He was like there, and like Hans Zimmer, like it was just so dramatic. It was making him write faster. So I would personally like to thank Hans Zimmer for inspiring my team to just be like into it. Like when they heard the Pirates of the Caribbean theme, like they were like there and making deadlines. So thanks, Hans Zimmer.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Here's my only comment about Hans Zimmer is I'm guessing you probably had a pretty badass spot for it, right?
For Hans Zimmer?
You were up close.
I was like right in the middle, probably we'll say maybe 20, 30 feet back from the stage. It was perfect.
Yeah, that day was actually my wife's birthday, and I love her to death, but just could not get her pumped to like leave the beer gardens to go get a good spot for Hans Zimmer. And I must say, just from the back, it was just not that moving because they didn't utilize the visuals the way they potentially could have. I think they didn't even have the screens on. And, you just want loud music like rushing in your ears, and you just don't get that when you're way in the back. So I'll live vicariously through you for that Hans Zimmer experience, and I just wasn't able to really capitalize on it the way you were. What about you, Vanessa? Were you like up front rocking out hard to Hans Zimmer?
Not super, like I wasn't up there super close because it was so packed, right? Like it was insane. And because I had, like, we were on deadline for something, so I was running back and forth through the press center. So I was like kind of smashed up against a fence at one point, which was fine. But I think you're right. It's really interesting. I kind of feel like, because you remember in 2019, I feel like they really upgraded the outdoor stage visuals, right? Like imagine what that set could have been like with those with those screens. And now I'm like, now I want Hans Zimmer to come back and take advantage of those screens. But I mean, it was like, the music was very moving. I understand your point, and I think they could have done more with the visuals, but I just heard it like you could hear it. Like you could hear the circle of life inside your bones.
Oh my God, yes, you could. But I understand, like, Tom, your predicament of being stuck in the beer garden and there probably being maybe a little bit of sound bleed from the main stage, just in general, a little bit quieter back there. I could see how a little bit of the Hans magic could get lost in the mix.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll survive that experience. But I want to hear about some of the other amazing stuff that you've seen, because I actually missed 2018. I didn't get to go that year because we were getting ready for my son to be born, and it seems like 2018 was pretty awesome in terms of some of like the more senior, established legacy artists that came and played. Off the top of my head, 2018 had David Byrne, right? And had Nile Rodgers. But there's another one that you saw that I'm curious to hear a little bit more about.
Jamiroquai.
It's Jamiroquai.
Yes. Truly, I have to say. So going into 2018, which ended up being one of my personal favorite years, I kept hearing about Jamiroquai. Of course, I knew them from growing up, and I hadn't really listened too much in a long time, but I was like, these guys haven't come to the States in, I think it was like 13 years. And I was like, I have to go see this set. So, Friday night comes around. I end up somehow, you know how it is sometimes. I wasn't there somehow for the start of the set. One of my buddies texts me one song in and goes, you got to run over here. And so I run over with my girlfriend. We get over there, and JK is just the lead singer. He's on stage in this outrageous, like amazing outfit. And it is just the biggest dance party I've ever walked into. And the next, however long it was, an hour, 15, hour and a half, was some of the greatest moments in Coachella history for me. Just the dance party did not stop. And Snoop Dogg came out and for an unlikely little, cameo appearance that was great. And then they ended with the song Love Philosophy, which that's got to be in my top 5 memories of Coachella, just period. It was just everyone dancing. You had room to dance. Just those late night Mojave sets, they get me. I love those sets.
My guess was it probably wasn't too packed either, right? Because, it's going right up against the headliners.
Oh, no, it was packed.
Oh, really?
It was packed.
Oh, good for Jamiroquai.
People, because we were, spilling out the side.
Yes.
I remember, because I wanted more room to dance. And I was like, I'm not going to the weekend. I have not seen Jamiroquai. Let me tell you, I'm not, as you know, I'm usually working. So I'm not there. I don't get to really dance. But at that point, I'm off of deadline because it's 11 o'clock. Somebody else was watching the weekend and I didn't have to mess with that. No offense, weekend. Sorry, you're great. But Jamiroquai was calling my name. And my 2 favorite sets ever for dancing were Justice. The first time I saw Justice, first time they played, and then Jamiroquai. And Jamiroquai was so good. I went back the second weekend. I was I'm watching the whole thing again just because I want to dance. But it was packed. We were up on the front left side. We had to be outside of the tent in order to actually have a room to dance. It was nuts.
Oh my God. Wow, Vanessa, I love that you said that about the second weekend. I've never gone both weekends. I've always wanted to, but I can tell you the closest I've ever come was 2018 solely because of Jamiroquai. I was I need to go see this again next weekend. That was unbelievable.
It was so good.
It was, totally blew my mind.
It was so good. It was, and if you've ever seen Jamiroquai, people remember the Virtual Insanity video where he was like JK was on the moving sidewalks and the furniture.
Mm-hmm.
But he always has really amazing hats. And his hat was just so great. It was
it was so good.
It was so good. I was every single part of it. And I want Jamiroquai to play every single Coachella forever.
I completely agree.
Because it was just so much fun.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
His hat looks like it's a crystal snowflake or something.
Yeah.
And I heard him talking about his hats that they help him kind of feel like he's becomes a character and it kind of hides behind him. And I totally get that it's allows him to cut loose a little bit more and just be extra silly. And it creates a really cool visual. Wow.
Yeah, that one was really cool because it lit up, which I appreciate. Because again, I was further back. I wasn't right there, but I'm I can see his hat. I'm dancing. I'm here in the moment.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I also appreciate people who bring costumes to Coachella and step it up, and dress for Coachella. There are many people, fans who go and bring, they have their Coachella outfits. The entire fashion industry has made money off of the Coachella outfit. But I really love when performers go the extra mile and they're this is I'm going to wear this so even the people way in the back can see me. So yay for Jamiroquai.
So does he have a song with Snoop Dogg, or was that like a cover that they did?
No, so it was actually just a Jamiroquai song that Snoop hopped on and I think sort of made up a little verse for, little rap.
Oh, I love that.
For.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very jazzy and improvisational.
And he was just wearing an incredible outfit as well. I don't want to get it wrong, but I want to say maybe he had like a cereal box around his neck or something. It was incredible. But man, 2018, just down the board, I guess I can knock out a couple more 2018 memories. I mean, speaking of, I know you guys are both Jungle fans. Jungle in 2018 was fantastic. Eminem, one of my favorite headlining sets that I've seen. Dr. Dre and 50 Cent came out. Lose Yourself, Past Curfew. It was amazing. I loved the Yuma. I mean, the Yuma, I guess we could just talk about the Yuma for a moment. The Yuma is sort of where my heart is.
Yeah, I love the Yuma.
I came into Coachella almost exclusively a rock guy, and the Yuma has changed my ways. I love house and techno now, and just one of my favorite places to hang out at Coachella.
And it's also one of the coolest places, literally.
And they get world-class acts there. Like, if it was just the Yuma, it would be one of the best electronic music festivals in the world.
Agreed. And they get, like, some rarities.
And Disco Shark is there.
Oh, Disco Shark.
Don't forget Disco Shark.
Oh, my God. How could I?
I mean, like, a disco ball shaped like a shark. I mean, like, I don't know. That's just, like, one of the things I love about Coachella. Nobody else has a disco ball shaped like a shark.
No, it's... Oh my God. Yeah. Whenever my girlfriend and I talk about Coachella 2022, we just go, okay, we're going to make it back and we're going to be dancing under the disco shark again.
It's kind of an unwritten rule I have, and I know we're going to talk about some of your tips a little bit later, Justin, but during the day at Coachella, you just want to use your time in the sun extremely carefully.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, you've probably walked a long way to get into Coachella. Maybe if you're camping, of course, you've been out in the sun a long time. But after the long journey of the scorching hot sun, to be able to go into Yuma at some, like, earlier on in the day when it's like 100 degrees out, it's literally going to another planet where it's not going to be crowded in there earlier in the day. It's like going to be air conditioned. You can get a drink. You can go to the bathroom. It's the perfect place to just kind of beat the heat and start off your day earlier on in the day in the Yuma. And that's what I pretty much always do at Coachella.
Same. I couldn't agree more. I usually go in there the second I get through the gates for like maybe 20 minutes. And then, like you said, throughout the daylight hours, if you pop in there for 20, 30 minutes at a time and do that, it is a game changer for your stamina too.
It just reframes everything, and it kind of puts you in that party atmosphere just to beat the heat and not pass out from dehydration.
Yes.
And I'm going to add to that, don't sleep on Sonora either. After they added Sonora,
so
it's the
true.
Same kind of thing. And you can get that, except there's nowhere to really sit down in Sonora. But I've found like some of the most fun sets I've seen in recent years have been like early day sets in the Sonora tent. Because if you haven't been to Sonora tent, has a lot more of like, it's where you'll find like more of the punk kind of bands. You'll find a lot of different like mashup kind of bands. Like, I mean, like one of my favorite bands that has played, so a local band, Quita Penas, they were kind of like indie rock, cumbia, like Tropicalia. They're local to Southern California. And like
what's that band? That sounds awesome.
Quita Penas.
Okay.
They're amazing. They're from the Inland Empire.
Ooh.
There was a conga line for them.
Oh my gosh.
Shame played in there. Like, it's great. Like, I mean, because you feel like you are in, just like Yuma, you know, you feel like you're in a dance club, even though it's 100 degrees and it's like blazing sun outside. You feel like you're in a rock club at the Sonora tent, but you're not. You're in a tent in the middle of the desert. But I love that about it. So I highly recommend, as people are listening and starting to make their plans for 2022, remember to stay hydrated and catch some like cool air conditioning vibes in the Yuma and the Sonora tents.
Yes. And I feel like the Sonora these days, I mean, because it's so new, it almost reminds me of early days Yuma in the sense of, at this point, the Yuma is a little bit bigger. Sonora is like pretty small. I feel like it's early days Yuma vibes for me when I go in there, and I love it.
Yeah, I think it might actually be the old Yuma tent, like the actual structure of it.
That makes sense.
Or at least the size of it. Like that's what it strikes me as, that size.
Wow, that would be incredible if it was like the actual tent. Yeah, everyone go to the Yuma and Sonora. And I guess to close out 2018, because 2018 probably had my most memories, but Motor City Drum Ensemble in the Yuma in 2018, one of my all-time favorite Yuma sets. And I have to close it out with another place that is a gem on the Coachella map, the Do Lab. In 2018, Chris Lake was playing there in the middle of the afternoon, one of the days. Two of my buddies had heard his song Operator and were like, we have to see that song. We're going to be over there. Meet up with us. So I go over and he played his song by Ante Up, which is him and Chris Lorenzo, their little super duo called Pizza. And it was unreleased at that point, but it was just one of those moments where you hear something and you're just like, what the hell is this? I love this. And stayed, for most of the rest of the set. And when we got back from that Coachella, I just went down like a Chris Lake rabbit hole. And I've probably seen him like 15 times at this point. I developed a strong love for Chris Lake. And so I credit Coachella and the Dewlap with that moment.
Tell us more about Chris Lake. It's a name that I've seen. I know I've heard some of the music, but I couldn't tell you anything about him.
Okay, so Chris Lake, he's a tech house producer and DJ. He's been a DJ for a long time, actually. He's been DJing since earlier 2000s, I believe. But he's become quite popular just in the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years. He was doing different genres of house, and then he sort of settled on this tech house direction that when he started doing it, he was really the only guy or one of the only guys doing that sound. And it blew up, and now you have a lot of DJs playing in that vein. One DJ who's a close friend of his, and yeah, he does some production work for, is Fisher, who absolutely blew up.
I heard about this. Yeah, I heard that Fisher was kind of that there was another big DJ that was kind of behind Fisher.
Yeah, so that's the big thing that everyone talks about online. And it is, if you look at his singles, most of them do credit Chris Lake with some production work. So I don't know if I'd call it a ghost producer if it's out there for us to see, but Fisher's definitely more of a personality.
He's definitely pretty silly. But Chris Lake is more the mastermind behind Got it.
A lot of different stuff. He's very technically skilled and one of my favorite DJs to see live because it's always different. Sort of I'm also a big Eric Prydz fan. And I feel like he's another guy that they both drop a ton of unreleased music when you see them and totally just play off the crowd as any good DJ does. But yeah, Chris Lake, if you haven't checked out a show of his, highly recommend. He's got a couple big shows in San Diego over July 4th weekend, actually the same days as Day Trip. And then I believe that he's going to be at the Shrine in Los Angeles sometime later in the summer.
So you caught him kind of coming up through the Dewlab. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not that long ago either.
Not that long ago. And then he played Yuma the next year, which was insane. It was the longest line I have ever seen to get in the Yuma. It went back to the Spectra Tower.
Wow.
Yeah. It was absolute insanity. And it was at the time with ton of conflicts. It was against Rufus Du Sol and Polo and Pan, who, if you're a fan of any of these guys, you could be a fan of the other two. And it was just insane. I usually would not endorse this at all, but me and my buddy, who are both became very quickly big Chris Lake fans, it's the one set where we cannot miss. And there was no way that we were getting in. And we just walked up to the gate and jumped over the fence and got in. But it was a 7-person wide line going back to the Spectra Tower.
Yeah, it gets crazy.
Yeah, that was a great experience. Also, we got to talk about the Antarctic Dome real quick.
Yeah, I love that place.
Oh, I love it. I've gone every year. That's another great place to take a break from the day, sit down in a nice, plush chair and just stare at the ceiling and watch this great little visual movie that happens.
Cool thing about the Antarctic Dome is they have partnerships with the bands the last couple of years, where in 2019 it was Rufus Du Sol, and 2018 they had Odessa. In 2017, the first year they did it, it looks like they didn't have a partnership. But the last 2 years that they did it, I really like how they featured popular songs from some of our favorite artists and to create that amazing visual experience. Justin, can you tell us a few more of your favorite Coachella memories?
Yeah, I'll fire off a few pretty quickly. So 2014, big memory for me was Capital Cities on the outdoor stage. I'm actually not like a crazy big Capital Cities fan, but I did really like that one album. And they ended the show with the remix of Safe and Sound by Cash Cash. And the energy just for that song was some of the most energy I've honestly seen on the polo fields. They had everyone take off their shirts. Everyone was swinging them in the air and just jumping up and down. And it was also one of my first Coachellas. So that was a great moment.
There's something so special about a song that just everyone knows, that's just a happy pop song that can just get everyone singing. And even though we love more artsy, eclectic, hip music, at some point you just need that euphoric pop, everyone jumping up and down, singing the chorus. That's one of the great things about Coachella.
It is. And those are always some of the best moments.
I think that song Safe and Sound is like the perfect example of just like a Coachella feel-good song.
Yes, that's one that comes to mind, like Bastille, Pompeii. I feel like that's another one that has that effect.
Yeah. And like you said, you didn't go for that. It's not something that like you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear Capital Cities play their big hit. But then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this song's actually super fun and everyone's getting into it. Like it's just that's just the magic of Coachella, that the stuff you're not even excited about can end up being just so special.
100%. So that was great. And then another set that blew me away that was unexpected was in 2016 on the main stage, Major Lazer. Another one where you just have, maybe 70, 80,000 people at this stage, everyone going nuts. They're putting on a show.
And the hits just keep coming.
And something that was interesting and unique about that set, which I've never seen another artist do, was they literally had everyone there in the crowd during one of the songs run 10 feet to the left and then 10 feet to the right. And in theory, in the moment, I was like, all right, people are going to get trampled right now. And it just worked perfectly. And rewatching it on the Coachella live stream blew my mind. It was just such a cool moment. And that was a great set. Oh, man, Tears for Fears coming out with Weezer in 2019 to do Everybody Wants to Rule the World. That was a big one for me because I'm a pretty big Tears for Fears fan. I've always wanted them to play Coachella.
That's interesting. That band doesn't do anything for me. Tell me about Tears for Fears, because I just know they're a band from the 80s. Yeah.
Oh
Tell me about it.
Tom.
So, you got to go listen to a couple albums and see if maybe it will do it for you.
I'm open to it. That's why I'm asking. I'm just
okay. Like Songs from the Big Chair is one of the essential albums of the 80s, right?
Yes.
Like everybody knows, like, yes, there are the hits. There's Shout. There's Everybody Wants to Rule the World. There's Head Over Heels, which is actually my favorite Tears for Fears songs of that era. And what they were doing as the duo, it was a lot different than what everything else was coming out at that time. Yes, they were on MTV. Yes, they had these big videos, but I feel like they had much more, even though they were on a major label, they have this like underground, like more of an influencer, kind of like the Pixies in a way. I don't think Tears for Fears gets enough credit, like the Pixies, for how many people they've influenced. And it's got like a lot of the new wave elements, but there's a lot of like really wonderful songwriting there. And I think you need to give it a chance.
I'll give it a chance. Yeah.
I say this as someone who I didn't like Tears for Fears other than Head Over Heels as a kid. Like I hated Shout. I hated every time that song came on the radio. Like for years I would turn it off. But I think you need to give it a chance, especially now that you're older, Tom.
Let's do it.
I agree. And I think you might enjoy it because I was the same. Like when I was younger, I didn't think that much of them. But then as I actually dove in, they just have that quintessential 80s sound. It gets dancey at times. It gets introspective at times. They're really good. And Everybody Wants to Rule the World is like one of my favorite songs of all time. And I'd always been like, all right, Tears for Fears, that's such a band that like, if they were one of those legacy acts that played Coachella, that would just scratch that itch perfectly for me. And I've always been like, I would love for that to happen, but this was the next best thing. It just, I couldn't have written it more perfectly. Just being at Weezer and then out of the blue, Tears for Fears walks on stage. They do Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Just great moment. And that whole Weezer set was such a just, I like Weezer anyway. I actually am a decent sized fan of Weezer, but I don't think anybody just knew how much fun that set was going to be. And they brought out Tears for Fears. I forget who else they brought out, a couple other people, and it was great.
That set was so much fun. I mean, I really love the first two Weezer albums.
Me too.
I love it. The Blue album. And like when they played El Scorcho, I was losing my mind. In fact, like all of my coworkers, because a bunch of us went to go see Weezer, because we're like, we love Weezer. And like I realized quickly that I was like the biggest Weezer fan of the group of us. And not everybody else. Like I was screaming along to El Scorcho. I like ran up and made other friends to sing along with, because like my coworkers were looking at me like I had lost my mind. And I'm like, how do you not know El Scorcho? But that set was so much fun. That set was so much fun.
And like, oh my God, Blue Album and Pinkerton are both classics. Like I know them both front to back. And yeah, oh my God, El Scorcho was incredible. And just so much fun. They're such a fun band live. Every time I've seen them, it's been a great time. And of course, seeing them on the big stage, on the main stage at Coachella, just that was awesome.
Did you guys hear the new album? They like feature or sample Crazy Train. It's pretty fun.
Okay, I heard the newest single, but I haven't heard the full. Did the album come out?
Yeah,
I think so. I'm pretty sure I listened to it. Yeah, I came out on May 7th.
It came out.
Oh, maybe that's why I didn't know that it came out.
I really, really love the first two Weezer albums. I mean, that's not okay. To be fair, like I think that they've put out, like I think Rivers Cuomo writes some like really great songs, and I feel like they've put out some really, really good songs over the years. Even though if I haven't loved their albums as much as I did those first two albums, I think that there are some really good songs. This one, I don't know. I haven't really fallen. Yeah, they have a new album.
I'm with you though. Like I feel the exact same in that I can always find at least a couple songs on an album of theirs that I think are great. But the full album experience hasn't been as much there since the first two albums.
But that's also what makes them such a fun festival band, right? Because they can have like all those hits that they can play. And then when they go into a deeper cut like El Scorcho, the real ones like us lose their minds.
100%.
I've played in bands on and off throughout my life and done a lot of Weezer covers. The very first song I ever played for an audience was the Sweater Song.
Amazing.
So they hold a huge spot in my heart. I've seen them a bunch of times. And I do really like, they have this new album. They have this song that straight up samples Crazy Train. It's called Blue Dream. And I see they credited Ozzy Osbourne and Randy Rhoads as co-writers of it. It's fun. I could see them because they're doing this huge arena tour, right? With Fatboy and Green Day, and it's gonna rock the crowd for sure.
I am gonna listen to the album. I've listened to all their albums. I'm actually pretty ashamed of myself that I did not realize this album was out. So
well, it's a pandemic, right? Like
it is.
It's the pandemic. We're all like you're forgiven.
Thank you.
Like I will forgive you on behalf of Weezer. That like it's all right. Like I mean, I've lost track of time. Is it May? No, it's actually June now. I didn't realize that. It's been June for a few days. So, I mean, I think on behalf of Weezer, I forgive you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Rivers. Okay. Last memory that I'll shout out is Ratatat in 2015 in the Sahara. I believe they closed out the night. I want to say it was Saturday night. And that was another one of those sets where just the entire group of people that I was there with all ended up assembling there. We hung out a little bit before the set. And when it started, I'll never forget, it was some of the craziest, like trippiest, like visuals that I've ever seen. And it was blowing my mind. And it caused me to sort of, I don't even know. I just remember, I will never forget the visuals. There was like, there was some weird like bird head on a human body. Like it was out there, and I loved every minute of it.
I remember it.
So basically they were running the second season of True Detective on the screen while playing.
Exactly.
That's what happened. You mentioned like assembling with your friends there. Like, do you have like, since you've been going for a number of years now, what are your tips? How do you get people to show up and know where to meet? Because I guess it's easier for us because I'm like, meet back at the press tent or else you're getting left here overnight and good luck getting back to the Coachella house. What tips do you have, Justin, for assembling friends?
So I think the biggest tips always is we always timestamp our texts. Always, always, always. And we always prior. Everyone, luckily, that we go with has gone before. Even if they hadn't, we always pick certain towers to meet at. So if you're unfamiliar with Coachella, they have, especially at like the main stage and the outdoor stage, they have these big sort of towers that have, I believe it's like a letter and a number on them. So let's say like L2, L3, L4. And we pick one. We say, okay, L2, if we ever get lost, you meet at L2. Or, if there's a set everyone wants to see, it'll be maybe 4 in the afternoon. And we'll say, oh, okay, everyone wants to see this set at 7. Let's meet at L2 at 6:45 and we'll all get there. So we usually just do that. We pick a tower, we timestamp texts, and always have a permanent meeting spot just in case you get lost, because you never know what's going to happen out there on the fields. I'd say those would be my biggest tips.
Those are good ones. The timestamping the text is like crucial.
If you don't do that, you could get a text 3 hours later from someone that you think is from right then, because this reception isn't that good out there.
And then you're just standing in the beer garden waiting for your friends, and they were already there 3 hours ago.
And then you're 3 beers later, and things get a little hazy, and then you're just not going to find anyone.
Exactly.
The specific meeting spots is huge. I like that you can meet at a place that, like, if you're by the speaker, like, and you're right behind it, that even if like stuff falls through, that the spot where you're meeting isn't a horrible spot to kind of wait it out and see if people show up, like, and you can watch the show. So it's like you're by the speaker has good sound. You might not have gotten as close as you would have if, everything worked out perfectly, but it's like a good backup plan. Does that make sense? Because of course stuff happens.
Definitely.
Oh, that's good. I didn't think about that. Pick a meeting spot that has good like sound and visuals. That's smart. I like that.
Yeah, you might not get as close as you want. If everyone can get to the meeting spot, like you said, the show's at 7, we're going to meet at 6:45. Okay, well, probably a lot of people are going to be late and you're not going to make it right at 6:45, but at least, hey, you're here by the speaker while we're kind of waiting it out, deciding what we want to do. And then if everyone does get there at 6:45, you're going to move your butt to the front. You're going to get a great spot. And that's, I think, a part of the thing too, is just making sure everyone is healthy, safe. I'm not a huge fan of drinking at Coachella because it just tends to slow everyone down.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be my number one tip, is just like, you can go to a brewery, a bar anytime. If you're going to Coachella because it's like a big drinking thing, I just see it as like a direct trade-off between alcohol consumption and your ability to enjoy Coachella. Obviously, I'm 34, and I wasn't saying that when I was 24, right? I would have seen them as more like more of a linear relationship there. But
definitely.
As I've been through this a few times, I just see that, okay, now that you're meeting up at 6:45, but oh wait, someone has to go to the beer gardens quick. There's always that person. Oh wait, now that person has to go to the bathroom too.
Because they always have to go to the bathroom. They always have to go. Because they didn't think about it before. No, yeah. And then that friend doesn't get to go to Coachella with you next year.
Exactly. That's honestly, also, I'd say that leads to a big tip that I have for everyone. Have fun, go with the group, but always be okay leaving the pack to go see what you want. Because there's nothing worse than being with 6 or 8 or 10 or more people and worrying every single time about this person having to go to the bathroom or this person wanting to get a beer. And I think, of course, if you're in a relationship or something, sometimes you got to stick with your significant other, but do get out there and see the music you want to see, because you'll regret not seeing it. It's one weekend that you get the chance to see so many different artists from all these different genres. And I think some of my favorite memories from my first 5 or 6 years before I did, have a significant other who thankfully likes all the same music as me, I would leave my pack so much and just go solo and just go to sets and just do the meeting spot thing that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Because I just, and some of the great sets, of course, are when you're with your whole crew.
You can get such a good spot when you're by yourself. It's crazy.
Oh my God. It's crazy. It's crazy. And yeah, I'm with you.
Much better experience in terms of just getting there, getting a great spot, weaving through the crowd. And it's very liberating.
It is. And I'm totally with you on, I'm not a big proponent of heavy drinking at Coachella. I'll have a beer or two throughout the day, but if you're drinking heavy and you're getting there pretty early too, you're not making it through the whole day.
Yeah.
And there's so many benefits to getting there early too, just because of like these little hidden gems that we've talked about, the Sonora, Yuma, Dulab, that it's so fun to get there early in the day. And I was curious, like, where do you stay when you go?
So I typically do either a hotel or an Airbnb. I've actually become a little bit more into the hotel experience just because the shuttles are so seamlessly run that it's very easy.
Don't you have to book like way in advance? Like they're already sold out, right? All of the good hotels?
They are. Usually what I do is I keep my eye out. I mean, literally like a year in advance. And if I see one that didn't sort of bookmark the Coachella dates and it's a little bit cheaper and I know that it's right near a shuttle stop, I'll just book it. I would highly recommend doing that, looking 11 to 12 months out if you're planning that early to go, if you know you're going. If not, they do jack up those prices a lot, but I do find that they're typically still better than the Airbnb prices, depending on how big of a group you need. A big group usually to make an Airbnb affordable, in my opinion. But then there are some deals that you could find, just like the hotels. So yeah, I usually stay in Indian Wells, I'd say. Usually Indian Wells area.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty close. And something else that our listeners should know about with Airbnbs, a lot of the cities in the desert now are cracking down on short-term vacation rentals. So the Airbnbs are not as plentiful as they were in years past. Now, if you're doing a long-term rental, like if you're renting for, say, a month because you're taking, I don't know, an entire crew of people out to cover like 3 festival weekends, then you still have some options. But a lot of cities are cracking down on that. And the other thing too, even as things get booked up, don't get super freaked out because there are always people like who have to cancel their hotel room for one reason or another. Like you're probably going to pay more the closer it gets. Like, I mean, that's how it works. But there are still hotels to be found.
Yeah, definitely. There will be hotels and like you said, there will be cancellations throughout the year leading up to it. And just stay on top of it. And yeah, my personal recommendation for places to stay, I typically stay around Indian Wells, Palm Desert area. I feel like it's close enough that when you're going to the festival, if you don't want to wait for the shuttle, you could take an Uber and it's cheap. But going back, you're always covered with the shuttle, which is just an absolute nightmare to get an Uber.
And the shuttles work pretty good at the end of the night, right?
Really well. I've never waited longer than 30 minutes, and it's usually like 15 minutes, if that.
Amazing. Yeah, they've done a great job with the shuttles.
Yeah, they really have. But that's a tip, I guess. And then, like you had mentioned briefly a few minutes ago, if you've never been, get there early. So many people, even people within my own group, don't get there till like 4 or 5 p.m. And don't get me wrong, you can have a great time going at that time. But if you get there, I think the gates usually open at 12. If you get there at 12, 1, even 2, you'll have at least a couple hours to just walk around while it's relatively empty inside. There's so many great sort of up and coming bands and DJs playing. And if you are a first timer, you can explore the grounds and get your lay of the land before it's so busy that you feel overwhelmed.
Oh, it's so fun.
And like it's also a good time to eat.
Yes.
Because as Coachella, I mean, we've talked about before that, like, Coachella's really stepped it up in like its food offerings. Like, it's not just like French fries and chicken tenders anymore. And if you want some of those like higher end food and like you want to try stuff, you're going to be waiting forever, like especially 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock as people come in. So if you want to try some of the food, I definitely recommend getting there early. And because you're not going to wait in line for that either. And for the ice cream, like I remember they had the really good little ice cream trailer and I was like, it's hot out and I want the really good ice cream. So this is what I'm doing first thing. And the Ferris wheel, obviously, if you want to go on the Ferris wheel.
Oh my God.
Do that first thing.
There you go.
Well,
what was the secret bar called in 2019?
There was a couple.
Oh, there were so many because there was one. There was the tiki bar. There was the disco one.
The disco one. I never did the tiki bar, but I know about the disco bar.
Hush Hush, wasn't it? Hush Hush.
Yep, there you go. Hush Hush. Stuff like that, right? Like you could be at home just chilling out by your, if you're at Airbnb, you can like hang out by the pool. Like you can do that anytime. Get your butt up, get moving, go to Hush Hush. Like that's our advice for sure. I'm gonna have to start having these conversations with my wife. Be like, okay, honey, I'm excited you're coming with me this year, but you're just gonna have to let me go. Because honestly, I'm not gonna try to convince her to come early with me. It's like I'm gonna go first. You can Uber. You come second. You meet me there. It's gonna be great. You come at 5. I'll be there. You just enjoy your chill time. And I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be fine.
It sounds like a win-win.
Yeah.
It sounds like a win-win.
She should be good with that, I think.
I can't even fathom the idea of like coming to Coachella at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Like I can't like that does not compute because I always have to get there. Like we get there for gates opening. Like the latest I think I've ever gone in was 1:30 because I overslept one time because it took us forever to get out of the Prince parking lot in 2008. I think that's the latest I've ever gone in. I don't like does not like this blows my mind. I know that people do it, right? Because I'm there early in the day when there aren't people there and then everybody shows up. But like, I can't, how do you even do that? And then there's all the people because that's when everybody's coming in. Oh, I'm just getting stressed thinking about it, guys.
As you should. I
mean, there's a percentage of people who go to Coachella just to see the headliners. And that's obviously not us, but I mean, it's a significant percentage.
I can't fathom that. Like, why would you spend all that money just to see 3 acts? Like, there's so much more. There's so much
80-year-old dude who was the landlord of my Airbnb went just to see Lady Gaga. So there's that guy.
There's that guy.
I once went in at like 4:30. It was one of those things, it was a rough night the night before, and I ended up getting there late. I learned from that mistake. Will never do it again. I felt so rushed the whole day. And just you get thrown into the mix when it's just the busiest time of the day. Everyone getting in, you're waiting like 45 minutes in the security lines. It's just, oh man.
Yeah, all those lines it's so bad.
Terrible. And you know what? Speaking of right when you get into the festival, I know people can go each way on this. I'm a big proponent of buy a locker, especially if you have a group. It's like $5 a person and you can go to it at any point in the day. That way you can bring a hoodie in if you want for nighttime. Sometimes it gets cold. Put some, put whatever in there. Sunscreen, I don't know. But I am a big proponent of getting a locker.
Yeah, then you can have your day clothes and night clothes. That's the move.
Yeah.
You can have like a transition point where you go into night mode and you coming out fresh. I'm into it.
So but like, do you rent the locker do you have to get it each day or do you get it for the whole weekend?
You get it for the whole weekend and you reserve it online prior to the festival. So if you go to the Coachella website, there you can find a link to the lockers. You reserve it. It's, I want to say, for the biggest locker, which I usually get because it's like it's not a key. You have like a code that you put in, which is easy, of course.
Oh, that's helpful. So then anyone can go over and grab it.
Exactly.
Like for your team. That's smart. That's a good tip right there.
Get that one, the XL locker. I believe it's $85 for the weekend. So you split that with some people and it's not bad at all. Usually we split it amongst like 10 people. It's like $8 a person.
That's smart.
So who did you want to see in 2020?
I loved the 2020 lineup. Rage Against the Machine was definitely number one. They've been my number one bucket list artist for a long, long time. So to say that I was excited for them would be an understatement. And they're like the reason that I even first discovered Coachella when they reunited and played their first show back in 2007 there. So I very much...
I was there. It was amazing.
Oh, that's right. You were there.
I was there. That was my first Coachella. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make you feel really good though, because I would bet money right now that they're on the 2022 lineup. So your dreams are gonna be realized. I mean, looking at those tour dates, there's no way they're not playing. So your dreams will come true. You can cross it off your bucket list. Assuming I'm going to go ahead and say Coachella is happening and we're not going to have another resurgence of the pandemic because I'm feeling lucky.
Yes. I like the optimism.
It's happening.
I like the optimism. It's happening. I could not be more excited. Very pumped. Other artists that I really wanted to say, Lane 8 would probably be next on the list. One of my favorites of the past few years, just an incredible DJ. And his music, it's so like ethereal that I feel like it's just destined for like an incredible like sunset set or something, just outdoors. It's just, he's a guy that you want to see outdoors in a beautiful setting. And could there be a more perfect place than Coachella? I don't know.
I've really gotten into his music lately. I love that song with, is it called Policia?
I think it's Policia is how you say it, or so, I think. But yeah, she's on a few of his songs. Which song have you been getting into?
You make me happy and it's hard to do.
Yes.
It's such a beautiful song.
The Rope.
Yeah, The Rope. And she is from, so the band Policia, we'll just say, they're from Minnesota. So that makes me happy. I'm from Minnesota too.
Oh.
So there you go.
There you go. There's the connection. Yeah, she is awesome and features on a few of his biggest songs. Yeah, he'd be great. I think, Vanessa, have you listened to him at all?
I haven't, but now I'm going to go check it out.
Yeah, you should. He almost reminds me a little bit of, if you've never listened to him, to some extent, it's almost like a score of a film. Very like sort of epic and like beautiful, but it's also more on the, he has actual songs and there's singers on certain songs. Some are just instrumental, but he's really good. Definitely recommend.
Do either of you guys know the band Gangs?
Gangs.
They were like a super group from Minnesota. It featured Justin Vernon from Bon Iver, and they played Coachella, and it was amazing because there was like no one there. And I was just like one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life.
Whoa.
And they also, so Policia they're part of the super group. So this feels like an evolution of that to me because it's that same vocalist.
Okay.
I guess her name is Shani Lene or something along those lines. I'm mispronouncing it, but just her voice is really special to me. And Lane 8 does a great job with it on his music. I'm a huge fan of his. Where would you see him playing? Do you think he could be big enough for that like epic sunset time slot on the outdoor?
I don't think he is. I wish he was. I could see him being in the, like the 2019 Fortet slot where he played the Mojave around sort of sunset time.
Okay.
I could see him in that slot. I could see him in the Mojave. I think it'd be a stretch to have him on the outdoor, but not impossible. He's getting pretty popular, but like he sold out 2 nights at Red Rocks in October. So he's definitely starting to get pretty big, but I don't know if he'd be outside. I hope he's not in the Sahara because I don't think it's the right place for him. But
yeah,
Mojave would be my dream, I think, given what's realistic.
But I mean, that's kind of interesting. If he's like selling out Red Rocks, especially because, when they book Coachella 2020, they booked Paul T booked it in like 2019. Mm-hmm. So if people are coming back, like a lot of these people have gotten a lot bigger. So maybe by the time, because like the set times, as I understand it, the set times aren't set in stone until like that. That's why we get them so like, because like there's movement up until the last minute. Like obviously, like when the headliners are playing.
Right.
So I mean, maybe, depending on how the summer goes, like and how Lane, maybe he does get big enough to play.
Okay.
Outdoor. I don't know. We're gonna see.
It would be magical if he did. So I'm going to cross my fingers.
Anything is possible. Anything's possible with Coachella 20. In fact, there we go. That should be the motto of 2022 Coachella. Anything is possible.
Yes. I like that. Okay. Oh, Fatboy Slim. I was very excited for him. And he was going to play the Yuma, which I just think, I know he played the Sahara back in 2014, I believe, but Yuma just being what it is, I've seen him I saw him at Sound in Hollywood in 2019, which is, of course, the actual home of the Disco Shark. They lend it to Coachella for Yuma every year. It's like a 500, maybe a little bit more person, like house music club. And Fatboy Slim played a small show there. One of the craziest shows I've ever seen. He played for like 3.5 hours. And I can only imagine him in the Yuma would be absolute madness. And I know he lives over in the UK, but I'm hoping that he's still on the 2022 lineup.
I mean, honestly, we should probably get in line for the Yuma tent now in order to get into that set. But yeah, I mean, I really want to see it because, okay, so you have to remember Fatboy Slim is like one of the first real big crossovers you have with alt rock and EDM, like in the night, like when you've got Weapon of Choice and you've got Praise You and you've got, I mean, the Rockefeller Skank. Oh my God, that was everywhere, right? Like it was in that movie, She's All That. There was Usher made everybody do a choreographed dance to it.
Yep.
I really want to see him because I think that's like, I want to see him in that small space. Like when else am I going to see Fatboy Slim? But again, I'm going to have to get in line now. And I feel like and especially because like from the last time he played, and Tom, you can probably talk about this because you saw him like over in the Crush at the Sahara, like what the Sahara tent has changed so much from 2014 to now. So I feel like it would just be, I think you're right. I think it's going to be magical, Justin, to see him in the Yuma tent with under the glowing disco sharks like you saw him in LA.
Yes. Yeah. And the Sahara now, I don't know I'm curious how you guys feel about it. I understand why they did it and they had to do it for crowd flow, issues because people would get crushed in that old Sahara. But I just don't love it. It doesn't feel, I don't know. It's good for a very specific type of artist, but it's almost so big and so impersonal that there's something I dislike about it.
To me, it's a winner just the way it frames the mountains when you're looking, I guess it's south.
Okay.
That shot just makes it all worthwhile because the old Sahara, you could see, of course you can see the mountains around Coachella, right? But just the way it frames it is just so beautiful that it makes the deal for me. And yeah, it's not as cool as the old Sahara. It's this new bigger thing. If you're comparing it specifically to the old Sahara, yeah, not as good, but just taken of itself, it's a beautiful structure.
It is
extremely versatile and so accessible, right? To make Coachella, like you can just walk in and boom,
it's right there.
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of feel like for me, I would go to it way more in its old location, right? Because I would just hop on over. Like I'd go to Gobi for a while, and then I'd go to Mojave. Like I would just make the circuit, and now I'm like, that's all the way over there. Like that's typically not where I'm ever at during the festival. So I'm like, it's got to be like, what is enough to make me go and fight all the crowds to get all the way to that side of the field? But I do agree, like the visuals from it are stunning and like what they've been able to do because they've made it so big, not only framing the mountains, but the actual tech of the Sahara tent is amazing. But I mean, I'm like, yeah, I might pop in early in the day, but I'm not going to go over there. I'm not going to just go over and take a gander and like pop in and see if like there's something I really want to like I might be into because that's a hike. That's a hike. Got to watch my steps.
We were spoiled when we had the 3 tents right next to each other. It was so cool. Like there was times when I would just pop over to the other tent, watch like 15 minutes or something, and then come back and meet my friends. With Mojave Gobi and Sahara all next to each other for so many years. It was just so fun to bounce around those.
So fun.
Yeah. I mean, I miss that. I mean, I guess that's like one of the things I don't love about the festival being bigger, right? Like, again, I understand why they really needed to do it, but I mean, that's kind of one of the things that I miss about the old Coachellas, because it's harder to just bounce around for like a song or two and then come back.
I totally agree. And Tom, though, I am really intrigued by the way that you said about how it frames the mountains and everything. I feel like I've never really taken that in fully. So I am going to look at that when I walk in 2022.
Yeah, if you're coming from that angle and it's daytime, it's just so beautiful. I definitely got to experience that because you get there early, right? And it's still day, and it's, forget exactly who I saw. Maybe it was a little bit of Fisher. Yeah, I saw Fisher. Would that have been Friday earlier in the day? And it's just like Coachella is just starting, right? Like that's the moment when Coachella is like going from, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we're at full Coachella. Fisher is playing Losing It. We're in the Sahara and we're seeing the mountains. Oh man, it just sold it for me at that moment. I was like, yeah, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was at that set as well. Yeah, there's definitely some trade-offs, but I guess at the end of the day, no matter what, for the crowd flow purposes, it had to be done. But I do yearn for my old Sahara tent occasionally. But yeah, I'd say speaking of big Sahara type artists, another artist that I was looking forward to a lot on the 2020 lineup was Calvin Harris, who I know hasn't played that tent in a while, but big EDM name. I feel like for a lot of people, he's a big piece of the Coachella lore. He's played it quite a few times, and a couple of his sets were very talked about. The 2014 Sunset set on the main stage sort of set the stage for a big EDM artist to do that on Sunday at Sunset in all the years going forward. He was the first DJ to headline Coachella. And I know that was like poorly received to a degree, but I still thought it was a ton of fun. No, it wasn't like one of my favorite headline sets ever, but I don't know how you could have a bad time at the set. So I just thought he hasn't played a festival, I believe barely played a festival since that headlining set in 2016. And he finally has new music. He also has been doing a side project that's like a house moniker, Love Regenerator. And I was just really excited to see what he was going to do.
So there's music out as Love Regenerator. Is that the name of the album? Can you explain what that means?
So he released music as Love Regenerator that wasn't straight up Calvin Harris. It was more house and techno undertones. He released that throughout early quarantine days and did some virtual sets as Love Regenerator. And then just a couple weeks ago, it actually might have just been this past Friday, he released, in the first one in a long time, a new Calvin Harris single, which I believe is called By Your Side. Was very curious to see. It is called By Your Side. I was just very curious to see what he had in store because he hasn't played a festival in so long. He loves Coachella. He's got a ton of hits.
Unlimited cameo potential.
Yep.
All the big hits, Slide, One Kiss, This Is What You Came For.
Summer, Feels So
let's throw it way back to Acceptable in the 80s.
Yes. I love that you just dropped Acceptable in the 80s.
So here's the thing, I interviewed Calvin Harris when nobody knew who he was. The first Coachella he played was 2008. He was I don't even know if he was 21 years old yet. He was delightful, by the way. And we have this great talk. And I think that, a lot of people talk about the Coachella lore and bands like Amy Winehouse before she blew, she has this moment at Coachella, and people talk about how the Killers and Arcade Fire played those smaller stages and came up through the ranks to headline. But Calvin Harris is probably one of the biggest artists to do that when we're talking about anything electronic, right? He really played, he was on, because I think he played in 2008. I think he then played in 2012. Then he had that 2014 set. So, it was seriously every other year Calvin Harris was showing, like, he probably should get a summer house in Indio because he was there that often. But I mean, I remember interviewing because I was like, acceptable in the 80s. I was like, this is kind of cool. I want to talk to you about this. You seem fun. So I would love a Calvin Harris throwback set.
I could not agree more.
I'm so glad I'm not alone in this. Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome. You are not alone at all. And I want you to know there's more than just us two. A lot of my friends, we always talk about if he did Acceptable in the 80s, some of those early tracks, it'd be so fun. I don't know if he'll ever do it, but it would be awesome.
It would be so much fun.
I know.
Like, yeah.
He really should do like a career spanning truly and include the stuff that's a little lesser known from the early days like that. Cause he's got some funky stuff back then. I love that stuff that he started out with.
Yeah. And he should bring out Kylie Minogue. Like that was like, I remember one of his very early collaborators, Kylie Minogue, huge around the world. We need to see Kylie at Coachella too. I want Kylie and Calvin Coachella 2022. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. I love it. Let's get Kylie to the fields. Oh, that would be fantastic. I guess I'll fire off a few more that I wanted to see of somewhat bigger names in 2020, but really was looking forward to Duck Sauce, Disclosure, Caribou, Carly Rae Jepsen, Hot Chip, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I'd say those were a few others that I really wanted to see.
I'm with you 100% on all those. Hot Chip's one of my favorite bands. Carly Rae Jepsen is another one of these things that it's just so much fun, euphoric, big choruses. Mm-hmm. And I'd want to go from something like that to then see something super hardcore and weird, to get that total spectrum. That's what I like to do.
And and that's a great way to play it. I mean, imagine going and seeing Call Me Maybe and then seeing something super weird right after. Be amazing.
You have to do it.
But that's the magic of Coachella, right? Like,
yep.
I feel like other than there's no other festival where you can see something that weird. Like, sure, there are imitators. There are other festivals that have different stuff. But and not only one weird, I'm sure you could find like two really weird things right after Carly Rae Jepsen. Like you can find something really weird and possibly a hardcore punk band, or find something really weird like Fisher, like freaking out. You have options. Like it's like choose your own adventure weirdness at Coachella.
It really is. And that's something that I feel like Coachella for American festivals does better than any other festival. They're so diverse. So incredibly diverse.
A lot of the names that you mentioned are pretty well known. Are there any like really small print acts in the undercard that you feel strongly about?
Yeah, I'd say a few. Pup. I love Pup, who's a bit more of like
yes.
Yeah, sort of more on the punk spectrum.
I'm here for the Canadian punk rock.
Yes. I would love to see Pup in the Sonora. Think about that would be so awesome.
That's totally where they're gonna play. If they're back, you and I will be there together.
Yes.
Watching Pup. We're calling now. 2022. Anything's possible.
Anything is possible. We're getting Pup. And so, yeah, Pup I was really looking forward to. Sleaford Mods, who are like a really like random duo from I believe the UK that I was recommended. And they're pretty. Have you guys listened to Sleaford Mods at all?
No,
yes.
This is a name I've never even seen before.
Tom, it's definitely in Vanessa land. Like definitely my kind of.
I like Vanessa land. Kind of Vanessa, it's good. I can get into Vanessa land. Yeah. It's just the name. I must have just like there's something about it that doesn't like jump out at you. It just Sleaford. It's kind of slippery, right? And it just never even caught my eye before.
I would honestly go in blind and just check it out. That's one of those acts you just walk in and you're just like, wow, this is different than anything else I'm going to see all weekend. And it's great.
Okay. So I'm not allowed to listen to it.
You're not allowed to listen to it until 2022. Some other ones that I'll just fire off: Friendly Fires, Hayden James, Floating Points. Something that's sort of out, like really random that they booked for Coachella for 2020 that I think would be fun is Emo Night, which is, I don't know if either of you guys are familiar. Yeah. Yes.
Vanessa land.
Yeah, that might be the closest we get to My Chemical Romance on the Empire Polo Club field. next year.
I fully agree, because you know they're going to play at least one My Chem song, and
At least one.
It's a DJ, right? DJ who plays emo music.
So it's these three friends. I believe one actually left since then, but three friends created this thing, Emo Nite. Initially, they had called Taking Back Tuesday as like a play on Taking Back Sunday. It would be a Tuesday night party at the Echoplex in LA. I'm like doing promo for Emo Nite right now, but anyways, they ended up changing the name to Emo Nite as it got more and more popular. I would go frequently back in like 2015, 2016. They eventually moved it to Fridays, and it's very fun. It's just these three friends that play all of the emo and pop punk music. And over the years, they've gotten very big every time they do it, once a month at the Echoplex. And they now tour the country as this. They always get famous band members from within those scenes to DJ their own set. So like one of the first ones I ever went to, Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 did a DJ set.
Nice.
And it's like he plays a few Blink songs. He plays songs from My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, The Used, like all through the emo pop punk universe. And it's very fun. Everyone sort of takes it back to, I'd say, like, you know, the 90s, 2000s. Phones aren't out.
We're all time traveling back to 2003.
Yes.
When we are listening to Dashboard Confessional and possibly like, by the way, Dashboard Confessional is playing Bonnaroo. We'd love to see a Dashboard set at Coachella, because that would be so weird.
That would be, but it would be just the most delightfully weird thing.
Yes.
Just seeing screaming infidelities on the polo field.
Yes. And we're all going to scream along, because we've all been there.
Yep.
We know those. We all have our feelings about Dashboard.
I'm so happy to hear this, because I actually booked them when I was the director of concerts at USD, and I'm a fan, and it just didn't sell that well. So I've always kind of like this weird like feeling in my gut about the band, but I'm glad that you guys like them, because
Dashboard really
Conventional. It was a little late, right? It was like in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah. So like we're not quite to the emo revival yet, and everyone's
exactly
kind of moved on. Yeah.
Honestly, electronic music was like really coming up then, and I kind of just missed out on that and booked emo instead, because I was
you were ahead of your times.
You were ahead.
You were ahead of the like emo resurgence.
There you go.
Trendsetter, Tom.
You are a trendsetter.
Thank you, man. I needed that.
But yeah, hopefully Emo Nite will be back. That would be super fun and different. And then I guess just a few more: Fontaine's DC,
yes,
Kyle Watson, Dom Dalla, and Latrell. Latrell's another sort of Lane 8 type, sort of vibey, ethereal type music that is not as big as him. I think he'd be cool.
Dom Dalla is cool too. It's just fun dance music, is all I'll say about it, right?
Yeah, he sort of, to call it back to Chris Lake earlier, they have semi-similar styles. So if you like Dom Dalla, you could probably get into Chris Lake. I'm really just curious to see who is going to come back, and also certain acts like Doja Cat or Black Pumas that were on the 2020 lineup in such small print. What do we think? There's going to have to be a massive renegotiation of the contracts, right?
That's, I hadn't really thought about that angle of it. Like, if you were in the original, I wonder what those terms were. If you were in the original 2020 lineup, and then are you still there? Like, are all the contracts totally voided, or did anything carry over? That's kind of interesting to think about. Because Doja Cat's gonna be huge. If she's on there, she's gonna be way bigger now. Same thing with Black Pumas. Black Pumas are also, I almost wonder, when they were booked for Coachella, that was I think their first big festival performance. Mm-hmm. Right? I think that's what they're just starting to break. And now I feel like they're everywhere. I want to say they're playing Ohana in Dana Point in September.
That's interesting.
I know they're playing ACL in October.
Or maybe they are not on Ohana anymore. They're on ACL. They're on one, but I feel like they're playing other festivals now. So I wonder if they're going to, if they come back, they're going to be bigger, but also are they going to be played out? Because at this point, all these other festivals are now happening in the fall. And I feel like Coachella's not going to want to, Coachella always zigs where everybody else zags. So I'm really curious to see if we even get them. I mean, I want to get them because I think they would be great. And maybe they play that main stage set around like 5 or 6 o'clock. That'd actually be pretty good.
That would be pretty great. Yeah, that and you're right, by the way, they are on Ohana.
Yeah, okay, good. See, I couldn't remember if they were on it or not, because I couldn't remember if they added Ohana or if they dropped off Ohana, because somebody did. I don't remember who. Someone did, but it wasn't them.
Yeah, so that's interesting though, because they'll be in SoCal in September.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they're going to play ACL and probably a couple other festivals. And so you wonder, will Coachella still want them at that point? Yeah, it's really interesting.
Are they on Outside Lands?
That's a good question.
Or is Outside Lands happening the same time as ACL? Because I feel like Outside Lands is probably the one that is the closest in spirit to Coachella when we're talking about things beyond EDM.
They are not at Outside Lands.
Because I feel like anybody we see big at Outside Lands, I would be really surprised if we see them at Coachella.
I agree with you. That's a great point. I want to say, I mean, this is totally a guess. I don't know this, but I want to say I believe in my heart that maybe about 80% of the lineup will remain the same. And then you'll get maybe 20% new stuff. I don't know. There's just some of the stuff on like a couple of the artists on the second line. I'm just like, these people are not big anymore. They sort of had that rise up moment. And I'm like, I don't think they could be this high on the lineup anymore. Anyone
specific you feel that way about?
Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, either of you, but would someone like Summer Walker or Ari Lennox still be that high?
I haven't heard people talking about them at all.
No, I feel like it was a buzz thing at the moment, and then it sort of fizzled out. I'd say those are the two that jump out at me the most when I look at it. I'm also curious if Danny Elfman will stick around. That was a really unique booking, but I saw that he's playing the Bank of California Stadium in October. So,
but that's specifically for the Nightmare Before Christmas sing along, like he did at the Hollywood Bowl. So I think our Danny Elfman dreams are still alive.
Yes. Okay, that's going to be awesome, because that'll be like sort of in a totally different way, like a Hans Zimmer type thing.
Oh, yeah.
But then obviously you've got like Oingo Boingo, and yeah, that'll be cool.
I think we'll definitely see him. And I think too, he's been releasing more music during the pandemic, more original music. So I think, he hasn't been releasing a lot. It's just like a little bit here and there. And my theory is he's starting to do that. So then he's got a steady stream of new stuff coming, because we'll see him on the polo fields. In April is my kind of an educated guess. We'll call it an educated
Good detective work. Good detective work.
Will he have an orchestra?
I hope so. I want him to bring everybody.
You have to have one orchestra per Coachella. That's my new rule, as I've stated before.
Everybody brings an orchestra.
Okay. This is a totally like off the cuff question. So if you don't have an artist, that's cool. But if one artist that wasn't on the 2020 lineup that you would love to see on the 2022 lineup?
That's a great question. Mine is super fun. I just watched his documentary on Amazon Prime, and I'm so inspired by this guy. It's someone I saw in 2019 and just loved. It's J Balvin. J Balvin is an amazing artist. I was so inspired by him, and I learned he's actually a little bit older than me, and he had come to the United States as a young man and literally painted houses and did whatever he could just to get by. He had such a vision of being a musician, and he gone through such hard times, and to come through it with this vision that he has, and he's really someone who feels very passionately about wellness and meditation. He talks about how he doesn't use drugs or alcohol, and his visuals and his style are just so fresh and so bright, and so, like, to me it feels very Gen Z, and I didn't know anything about him, and I just assumed he was like 21, 22, was very naive, and that's how he comes up with like these fresh creative visuals. But it's not. He's older than me. Like, he's just went through this whole crazy life of being a struggling artist, painting houses, coming up through Medellin, and she's trying to put out this very positive energy because there's so much negativity going on in Medellin, Colombia. And I'm just so inspired by this guy, and I just cannot stop listening to his music. So I would be so excited to see J Balvin again. And I just love seeing him in 2019. It was absolutely fabulous.
And he's like blown up big time. So yeah, that's a good one. I'm also gonna go with some returning Coachella acts, but ones we haven't seen in a while. One, Chromeo, because I want to dance and I love the Funk Lords, and they're always fun.
Love Chromeo.
They're so
I know you love
fun.
right, and they're so much fun. And I want them to bring Hall & Oates out for a collaboration, and it's going to be awesome. This is like my dream Coachella collab. But I mean, like, they're playing Day Trip. I think we're going to see them on the festival circuit. They've been teasing on Instagram new music, in addition to their brilliant Quarantine Casanova, like all songs inspired by the pandemic EP. Like, go listen to Clorox Wipe. It is my jam. I also want to see the return of Jimmy Eat World. We were talking about Emo Night. I love Jimmy Eat World. They've got new music. They are on, I think they're playing Lollapalooza. They haven't played Coachella in a while. And honestly, like, they did the best live streams I saw during the pandemic. Like, they were such high quality. The one for the Clarity album, like, I got very emo. I was actually crying, like, watching it, because I love that record so much. So I really want to see Jimmy Eat World. And I want them back, and we can all dance and have that big pop moment to the middle.
Yes. Oh my God.
I love both those bands so much, Vanessa. You nailed it.
I'm very on board with both of those picks.
Justin, what about you?
For me, I'd say two artists I'd love to see there. One is newer. One is Purple Disco Machine, who, if you haven't heard of Purple Disco Machine, he is a DJ. He plays straight disco, and he is just so incredibly fun. I guarantee he's just one of those acts, outdoors, late afternoon. It would be an absolute dance party. I'm not comparing in any way to Jamiroquai. I'm just saying it would be a Jamiroquai level dance party.
I'm there for it. I'm here. I'm sold. Book him.
Yes, book him. And my other artist that I'd love to see, which is it's a personal thing. I've always secretly hoped they would be on the fields due to their California, coming from California. That probably won't happen, but I can wish. Incubus. They're playing Bonnaroo this year, and they're billed pretty high. And I know Bonnaroo books a little differently than Coachella, but these guys are all from Calabasas. They grew up here. So many of their albums are rooted in California, and they have so many hits. I just think they'd be so much fun on like a early evening main stage slot, even like the outdoor stage a little later. You'd get all the hits. You get Pardon Me, Drive, Wish You Were Here, Nice to Know You, Animali. You could go on and on. I think it'd be such a fun sing-along set at Coachella.
It could be like Weezer. Incubus could be 2022's Weezer.
Yes.
All right, I'm getting on board with this. I mean, I'd personally like to see a Make Yourself anniversary show, but since that came out in 99, that's not going to happen until 2024, and I don't want to wait that long. So I'm in favor of like Incubus Weezer style hit set.
That would be fantastic.
They were my favorite band in high school. Isn't that crazy?
They were one of mine as well. Like, I was a big Incubus guy. I was a big Blink-182 guy.
Yeah.
Justin, are you sure you're not really from Southern California? I know you say you're from Connecticut, but I think you might actually be from Southern California.
I really think that maybe I am. I even as a kid occasionally would listen to K-Rock to hear the Blink-182 and Incubus interviews. Just meant to be a SoCal kid.
Here you go.
Well, we're glad you're here now.
Thank you.
So how can people follow you? Tell us again about your podcast and what comes next for Top Fives and Deep Dives.
So if you want to find us, Top Fives and Deep Dives, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Instagram at fully spelled out at Top Fives and Deep Dives. We're on Twitter at Top Dives. And yeah, we're nearing our 50th episode. Our newest episode that's about to drop is going to be top 5 desert island albums, which is a very fun music oriented episode, which we don't have as many of. So very nice timing with the Coachella pod here. But yeah, check out our Coachella eps if you're a big fan, which I'm assuming you are if you're listening to this. And thanks for giving us a chance. And thanks for having me on today. This was so much fun. It is like my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
All right. And remember, you can get all kinds of Coachella news delivered to you by signing up for my newsletter, Festival Pass. Just go to pe.com, just like gym class. Click on sign up for newsletters. Look for Festival Pass. That's my newsletter. I write all about festivals in Southern California, mostly about Coachella. Sign up. It comes to you every Thursday. And, if you want to also follow us, Can't Feel the Heat, you can find us at can'tfeeltheheat.com. Follow us at Can't Feel the Heat on Instagram and on Twitter, and we'll see you next time.
You have just listened to Can't Feel the Heat, the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival unofficial podcast. Please rate us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on all of your favorite platforms. Follow us on Instagram at Can't Feel the Heat and check out our website at www.can'tfeeltheheat.com.